The book of Genesis is the first book of the Bible and serves as a foundational text for both Judaism and Christianity. It is rich in narrative and theological significance, detailing the creation of the world, the early history of humanity, and the origins of the Jewish people. Here's an elaborate note on its structure, themes, and key narratives. Genesis is traditionally divided into two main sections: primeval history, which covers Genesis chapters 1 through 11. This section details the creation of the world, the early human experience, and significant events that shape humanity's relationship with God. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. This was the dawn of existence, a time when nothing but darkness covered the deep waters. With divine command, God spoke light into being, separating it from darkness, and thus the first day began. Over 6 days, God meticulously crafted the world. Land emerged from water, plants sprouted, celestial bodies filled the sky, and animals roamed both land and sea. On the 6th day, God created humanity in his own image, Adam, and bestowed upon them dominion over all living things. On the 7th day, God rested, sanctifying this day as holy. In a lush garden known as Eden, God placed Adam, the first man. From Adam's rib he fashioned Eve, the first woman, to be a companion for him. They lived in harmony with nature, free to eat from any tree except one, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. However, a cunning serpent tempted Eve to eat its fruit, claiming it would grant wisdom. She shared this forbidden fruit with Adam, and their eyes were open to their nakedness. Ashamed and fearful of God's wrath, they hid when he came to walk in the garden. As punishment for their disobedience, God expelled Adam and Eve from Eden, cursing the ground they would toil and declaring that childbirth would be painful. The couple began their life outside paradise and had 2 sons, Cain and Abel. Cain became a farmer while Abel tended sheep. When they made offerings to God, he favored Abel's sacrifice over Cain's. Consumed by jealousy and rage, Cain murdered his brother. God confronted Cain and marked him to prevent others from killing him. Generations passed and humanity multiplied but grew increasingly wicked. Observing this corruption, God decided to cleanse the earth with a great flood, but found favor in Noah, a righteous man. God instructed Noah to build an ark and gather pairs of every animal. When the flood waters came, they engulfed the earth for 40 days and nights. Only Noah, his family, and the animals aboard the ark survived. After the flood receded, God made a covenant with Noah, promising never to destroy humanity with water again, and setting a rainbow as a sign of this promise. As Noah's descendants repopulated the earth, they spoke a single language and sought to build a tower that reached heaven, an act of defiance against God. In response, God confused their language and scattered them across the globe. Ancestral history, covering Genesis chapters 12 to 50, focuses on the patriarchs of Israel, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph, and God's covenant with them. In the ancestral history of Genesis, spanning chapters 12 to 50, the narrative unfolds around the patriarchs of Israel, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph. This era is marked by divine covenants and the unfolding of God's plan for his chosen people. The story begins with Abram, a man living in Ur of the Chaldeans. One day God called Abram to leave his homeland and journey to a land that he would show him. God promised to make Abram into a great nation, bless him, and make his name great. In obedience, Abram took his wife Sarai and his nephew Lot and set out for Canaan. Along the way they faced challenges, including famine, which led them to Egypt. There, Abram lied about Sarai being his sister to protect himself, but God intervened to protect Sarai. Upon returning to Canaan, Abram and Lot's herdsmen quarreled over grazing land. To maintain peace, they decided to part ways. Lot chose the fertile plains of Jordan, while Abram settled in Canaan. God reaffirmed his promise to Abram, assuring him that his descendants would inherit the land. As time passed without children, Sarai suggested that Abram take her maidservant Hagar as a wife to bear a child. Hagar bore Ishmael, but this was not the fulfillment of God's promise. When Abram was 99 years old, God appeared again, changing his name to Abraham and Sarai's name to Sarah. God established a covenant with Abraham, promising that he would be the father of many nations, and that Sarah would bear him a son named Isaac. The covenant was sealed with the sign of circumcision. Shortly thereafter, 3 visitors, angels, came to Abraham and foretold Sarah's miraculous pregnancy. When Isaac was born, laughter filled their home as Sarah rejoiced in her long-awaited son. God tested Abraham's faith by asking him to sacrifice Isaac on Mount Moriah. With a heavy heart but unwavering faith, Abraham prepared for the sacrifice. As he raised the knife, an angel called out to stop him, affirming that God had seen his faithfulness. A ram was provided as a substitute sacrifice, symbolizing God's provision and mercy. Isaac married Rebekah after being found by Abraham's servant in Mesopotamia. They struggled with infertility for years until God answered their prayers with twins, Esau and Jacob. Esau was born first, but sold his birthright for a bowl of stew when he returned famished from hunting. The narrative continues with Jacob deceiving Isaac into giving him the blessing meant for Esau through cunning means orchestrated by Rebekah. This act led Jacob to flee from Esau's wrath and seek refuge with his uncle Laban. While living with Laban, Jacob married Leah and Rachel and fathered 12 sons who would become the tribes of Israel. After years of toil, Jacob sought to return home. On his journey back to Canaan, he wrestled with a mysterious figure, often interpreted as God, until dawn broke. This encounter left him with a new name, Israel, meaning he struggles with God. Upon returning home, Jacob reconciled with Esau in a heartfelt reunion marked by forgiveness. The final section focuses on Joseph, Jacob's favored son. His brothers resented him due to their father's favoritism and Joseph's dreams that foretold his future superiority over them. In a fit of jealousy, they sold Joseph into slavery in Egypt and deceived Jacob into believing he was dead. In Egypt, Joseph rose from slavery to become second in command under Pharaoh after interpreting Pharaoh's dreams about an impending famine. During this time of crisis, Joseph's brothers came to Egypt seeking food. Unrecognized by them at first, Joseph tested their character before revealing his identity. He forgave them for their betrayal and invited Jacob and the entire family to live in Egypt during the famine. Thus began the Israelites' sojourn in Egypt, a pivotal moment leading towards their eventual exodus. The conclusion of Genesis encapsulates key themes: the faithfulness of God amidst human failure, the importance of forgiveness, and the unfolding of God's plan through the lineage of Abraham. The narrative leaves readers with a sense of anticipation for what is to come as the family of Jacob grows in Egypt, setting the stage for future events that will lead to their liberation and the establishment of Israel as a nation. The book ends with a lingering promise of hope and redemption, urging readers to continue into the next chapter of God's story with his people.